Greetings, my friends. It's your friendly neighborhood PhD coming to you with another episode of the Beyond Report on this Friday, October the 22nd, 2021. If you like the content, please click a like, subscribe, and share. You are helping to build this channel, this community. So it's been a week. It's been a tough 10 days, I guess, now. Um, this past week, Rob Skiba and Russ Dizdar, both friends of mine and fellow researchers, passed away. Also got news that David Villanueva, who does a lot of similar kind of research, also passed away. So we want to keep their families in prayer through all of this. And in the plus column, I hear that Steve Quill is feeling better. And I also understand that Dr. Mike Heiser, our good buddy, is also getting through his treatments very well, and we'll keep praying for their families and for them as well. And yeah, we're as Christians, we always Christ encourages us in the scriptures to take up our cross daily, and that's a momentous task, and we immediately paint a target on our back. For all kinds of things, for the enemy to do to us. Um, but at the same time, we also need to rejoice that our friends have finally gone home and they're no longer concerned with earthly things, and any frustrations and pains that they had are now gone. And so we miss them and we grieve and mourn with the families, but we also rejoice in their heavenly estate. I like to thank Chad Riley um, for including me in. Excuse me, I'm sorry, not Chad Riley. I like Chad Riley too. Chad Schaefer for including me in the memorial live stream that they had this evening for Rob. It was a really good time to share some memories and. Um, Actually, I'll share a couple now. I actually met Rob and Russ at the same conference. It was about 9.5 years ago, and it was at the church in Lubbock where the Sons of God conference was held for years after that. And L.A. Marzulli had asked me to take part in a documentary, and so the conference went on. We did our interviews, and at the end of the day, we were all eating supper at this Italian restaurant, and seated across from me is Rob, who has no idea who I am, or that it's me. I mean, he knows, he's read my book by that point, Interview with the Giant, so he knows Judd Burton. He just doesn't know who he is or what he looks like. And so Rob is seated across from me, and just to start making conversation before the food gets there, uh, he starts talking about my work, and starts to deconstruct a theory of mine, or try to deconstruct a theory of mine. Uh, Again, having no idea that that was me sitting across the table from him, and seated at the end of the table, uh, between us, next to us, was Dan Cressman, the pastor of that church, and I could tell it was everything he could do not to just burst out laughing. And when Rob had made his case, I said, "That's an interesting position." And Dan said, "Rob, I'd like for you to meet somebody. This is Dr. Judd Burton." And all of the color just drains from Rob's face. And he says, "You're Dr. Judd Burton?" And anyway, it was funny for our first encounter to be Rob eating crow for dinner rather than Italian food. Um, and Russ, I knew Rob better, but Russ I'd met at the same conference, and we'd sat on a couple of roundtable discussions on podcasts before, and he always had my respect. And so these two guys were at the vanguard of their respective fields, and we'll certainly miss them. In other news, at my old dissertation site, Banias, Caesarea Philippi, Banias, there apparently have been some new excavations, and they have found, or at least have identified, the tetrastyle structure that had been in front of the cave as the church. Now, while this is fascinating and interesting to me and pertinent to the work that I do, um, they're still maintaining that this was originally the Augusteum that Herod the Great built at the Banias that's mentioned in Josephus's works. But I have never agreed with that position because all of the other Augustea, these temples to Augustus, in other places in the Levant are on the highest points in the city, and this is clearly not. So I've never debated that there was some sort of tetrastyle structure in front of the cave. It's just that I never thought that it was the Augusteum, and to my knowledge, there's never been a complete survey of the cliff top above the cave, that little spur that jerks off of Mount Hermon, where you would think an Augusteum would be built. There have been no comprehensive surveys that I know of that have been done there, but it's an interesting find nonetheless, and I'll put a link in the description to it. Um, Also, yesterday I had the opportunity to watch the new Denis Villeneuve adaptation of Dune, and I enjoyed it. I thought that there were some interesting qualities, visually stunning. The fight scenes based on Filipino knife fighting were all just exquisite. The you could follow the story pretty well. The acting deliveries were mostly very good. The um, the score that Zimmer did was, I don't think it's as good as Toto, the one that Toto did or Graham Revell did for the miniseries, but it was all right. Not his best work, but I really thought that Jason Momoa nailed the character of Duncan Idaho, and uh, I'm gonna do a couple of other reviews and make some new episodes of Beyond Dune this next week. So be looking for some of those. They'll probably be little 4 or 5 minute videos dealing with different issues of Dune, but it's out now. It's on HBO Max. It's also out in theaters. Uh, I would read the book because there are elements of always read the book. Books typically better anyway. So read Frank Herbert's Dune to get a bigger picture because that's one of the failings I think of the movie is that it doesn't tell the complete picture. Even though this is just half of the story, it's just the first half of the book in this movie, and then presumably will be a sequel covering the second half of the book. Um, but if I had to put it on the beret scale, I'd probably give it 2.5, 3 berets. Let's just say 3 berets out of 5. Um, Now, in terms of coursework, the new session that's coming up, I'm going to have some really good deals this weekend. So tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, be looking for some really, really good deals on book packages and um, classes. Uh, Through tomorrow, the all the certifications are $115 a piece. So um, biblical anthropology, biblical demonology, preternatural morphology, mythology, the ancient Near East program, and the Mediterranean civilization program. Also, all of those are $115 a piece, and you can email me at professorburton@yahoo.com if you want to undertake that. So again, going to be some really good deals tomorrow and Sunday, so I'll post a lot of that on social media and maybe even make a couple of special videos this weekend for that. So stay tuned. And I've made a couple of recent appearances. Doug Van Dorn and I did an episode of Blurry Creatures the other night where we talked about demonology, and that should be posted up soon. I also did Judith Quova's show where we talked about classical influences on the modern world, and that was a lot of fun. And I'll have more things lined up. Of course, I have a presentation in the new Defender uh, conference put out by Skywatch TV. Some great presentations there that you don't want to miss. Mine was on vampires and the Great Delusion, essentially. So check that out. Check out all the other good speakers. There's lots of great stuff there. Ellie Marzulli, Even some older interviews with people who passed on, like Chris Putnam and Chuck Missler, of course Sharon and Derek Gilbert, and many. Drew Graffia has a really interesting presentation. Josh Peck, just a just a swath of great researchers and uh, getting it to you in this great format that you can watch at your leisure. So, well, for now, that's all. I'll be in touch very soon, and Godspeed, my friends.